Tonight, let us settle into a quiet moment as we gently open a story from long ago, a story about two people whose lives were touched by kindness and hope. This is the story of Isaac and Rebekah. A long, long time ago, there was a man named Abraham. He had a son named Isaac. Isaac was very important, for he was the child Abraham had waited for many years. Isaac grew up strong and good, living in a land where the sun rose warmly and the earth was rich and alive. Abraham loved his son deeply and wanted Isaac to have a companion, a wife who would share life's journey with him. But where could such a wife be found? Abraham was wise and careful about this. He did not want Isaac to marry someone from nearby, where customs and ways of life were different, and he wished for Isaac to find a gentle, kind-hearted woman from his own family where he knew goodness and trust. Abraham was old now, and he had a servant whom he trusted very much. This servant was given an important task. He was to travel far, beyond the hills and rivers near Isaac, to find a wife for Isaac, someone from Abraham's own country, from his family line. The servant took 10 camels with him. Camels were strong and could carry many things on long journeys across the dry, sandy lands. Before he left, Abraham made his servant promise something very special. He said, "You must not choose a wife for Isaac from the people here in this land. Instead, you will go to my family's home, far away. There you will find a wife for Isaac." The servant nodded. He took the camels and set off early the next morning, traveling through rocky hills and vast stretches of desert. As the sun rose higher, the little caravan moved steadily on. After a long and quiet journey, the servant reached a small town near a well. A well is a special place where water is found deep in the ground, and people come there to drink and collect water for their homes. This well was surrounded by warm sunlight and the soft sounds of birds. The servant came near the well and sat down, resting beside the water. He had a heavy heart and a hopeful spirit. He thought about how he would know the right woman for Isaac. He decided to pray, a quiet, humble prayer in his heart. He said, "O Lord, the God of my master Abraham, please lead me to the woman you have chosen for Isaac. When I ask for water, let her offer to give water to my camels too. This will be the sign that she is the right one." As the warm afternoon slowly turned gently into evening, women came with their jars to draw water. The servant watched quietly, hoping to see the answer to his prayer. Then he saw her. A young woman, kind and graceful, came to the well. Her name was Rebekah. She carried a jar of water on her shoulder, steady and light. When the servant asked her for a drink, she didn't hesitate. She bent down lightly and gave him water. She smiled softly. She asked if she could draw water for his camels too. This was no small task, for camels drink a great deal of water, and it would mean time and effort. Yet she did it with generosity, filling the water trough until the camels began to kneel, satisfied and calm. The servant's heart was quiet and full. He saw that this was the sign he had hoped for. He thanked God quietly, feeling peace within. He then asked gently, "Who is the father of this young woman? May I stay here and speak with your family?" Rebekah answered kindly, "My father is Bethuel. He lives here in this town." The servant was welcomed warmly. He shared his story, that he had come looking for a wife for Isaac, guided by a promise from Abraham. The family listened thoughtfully. Rebekah's mother and brother felt the wind of something new, a future that was starting with kindness and care. They said it was good. They saw the servant's trust and the story he told, and they agreed to let Rebekah go with him. Before she left, Rebekah took a moment to say goodbye to her family. Then she followed the servant on the journey back, ready to meet Isaac, who waited in the land where his father had lived. As the camels moved slowly across the rolling hills, the sun dipped low, painting the sky with soft colors of pink and lavender. The night wrapped around them gently. This was a story unfolding, one step at a time, quiet and full of hope. The land was peaceful, and the stars began to twinkle above. We pause here in this calm moment, holding space for what is still to come. The story of Isaac and Rebekah invites us to breathe slowly and gently, like the soft flow of water from a well. Now as quiet night falls, we can rest with this gentle tale, waiting to hear what happens next. The caravan moved gently under the vast canopy of night, camels plodding steadily across the soft sand. The servant, feeling the quiet calm that comes with travel and purpose fulfilled, glanced once more at Rebekah. She sat gracefully, her eyes reflecting the stars above, a peaceful smile touching her lips. The world around them was still, as if holding its breath in anticipation of what their meeting would bring. Each step brought them closer to Isaac, and with every mile, the servant thought of Abraham's blessing and the hope that this union would bring harmony and love. Rebekah's heart, too, was a mix of curiosity and nervousness, wondering about the man she was soon to meet, the son of her distant family, the one she would come to know as her husband. As dawn approached, the first delicate light softened the landscape, unveiling rolling hills and sparse greenery along the route. The air was crisp and fragrant with the subtle scent of desert flowers waking from their slumber. Rebekah stretched her arms, sipping water from her flask, quietly preparing herself for this new chapter. Upon nearing Isaac's homeland, the servant quickened their pace slightly, guided by the familiarity of ancient paths marked in memory and tradition. The camels, wise travelers of many journeys, seemed to sense their destination, their steady steps unhurried, yet assured. The hills gradually gave way to fertile plains, dotted with olive trees and streams, glistening in early morning light. Finally, the familiar silhouette of Isaac's home appeared against the horizon, framed by olive branches swaying gently in the breeze. The servant's heart lifted with gratitude, while Rebekah's breath caught, a ripple of excitement mingled with tender hope. When they arrived, Isaac was in the fields, tending to his crops as the warm sun climbed higher. His face, touched by years beneath the sun's glow, softened when he saw the group approach. There was a quiet strength in his eyes, a welcome wrapped in patient expectation. Rebekah stepped down from her camel, feeling her heart steady. The servant, sensing the sacredness of the moment, introduced her to Isaac with reverence and care. Their eyes met, and something unspoken passed between them, an acknowledgement of shared destiny, of lives about to intertwine. Isaac led Rebekah to the shade of a large tree. The air between them was filled with gentle silence, the kind that speaks louder than words. Slowly, with smiles shy but genuine, they began to share their stories. Isaac listened as Rebekah spoke of her journey, her family, her faith in the promise held by this union. Days passed in a soft rhythm. Isaac and Rebekah walked the same paths Isaac had walked alone, now side by side. They learned the language of each other's heart, gentle gestures, quiet laughs, the comfort of shared silences. Their bond grew not from haste, but from patient discovery and tender kindness. Families came together, welcoming Rebekah as one of their own. Feasts were held under open skies, songs drifted through the air, and blessings were spoken, weaving threads of hope and joy around this new beginning. In the stillness of the night, Isaac often looked out toward the hills where he had waited, now holding Rebekah's hand, thankful for the fulfillment of Abraham's prayer. Together they dreamed of days ahead, of children and laughter, of planting seeds in both land and heart. Rebekah found comfort in this new home, the warmth of Isaac's steady presence like a light in the calm dusk. And Isaac, who had waited patiently for this blessing, felt his heart open to a love both deep and enduring. So the story of Isaac and Rebekah unfolded, not as a rushing river, but as a great steady stream, nourishing the roots laid by faith and hope. Their journey was just beginning, a sacred path walked with gentle steps and open hearts. And in this peaceful moment, under the same eternal sky that watched over their ancestors, Isaac and Rebekah took their first shared breath of a new life, quiet, blessed, and full of promise. With the lanterns dimmed and the evening's warmth lingering softly in the air, Isaac and Rebekah found a quiet moment beneath the broad canopy of the sycamore tree. Crickets sang their gentle lullabies, while a light breeze mingled with the scent of wild thyme and fresh earth. The world around them seemed to pause, as if breathing in the peace newly settled between them. Isaac's eyes, steady and calm, met Rebekah's with a quiet reassurance. She noticed how the lines of his face softened with each shared smile, like the land after rain, tender and full of possibility. The stories they told each other were no longer strangers, but threads weaving the fabric of their days together. Rebekah spoke softly of the land she had left behind, of the river's gentle murmur by her childhood home, and of the days spent under the wide open sky. Isaac listened with a patience that felt like a gentle stream, steady and unchanging, carrying her words not away, but closer into themselves. Isaac shared his own stories, of the soil, of the season's rhythms, and of the quiet moments that held the weight of hope. He spoke not only of the earth he nurtured, but also of the dreams planted deep within his heart, now unfolding like tender shoots reaching for sunlight. Night deepened around them, and as stars began their slow dance across the velvet sky, Rebekah felt a gentle stirring inside, a note of belonging she had never known before. The presence beside her was a steady warmth, a promise of partnership carved in patience and understanding. Days blended quietly into each other, marked not by grand gestures, but by the grace of small acts. Rebekah helped in the fields, learning the rhythm of the land, her hands tracing the furrows while Isaac watched with a calm smile. Together they gathered figs and olives, the fruit of the earth blessing their shared work. At mealtimes their laughter mingled with the chattering of children and the songs of women preparing bread in the hearth. The village enveloped Rebekah with embraces and kindness, the dance of community carrying her gently into the heart of new roots. Even in moments of solitude, Isaac and Rebekah found each other's presence, a shared glance, a touch of the hand, a silent understanding settling softly like dew. Their bond grew, not hurried, but unfolding with the natural certainty of the dawn. On a morning painted with soft gold, Isaac led Rebekah to a quiet place where a small spring bubbled clear and cool. He knelt beside it, cupping the water in his hands and offering it to her, a simple gesture full of grace and life. She drank, and in that coolness felt a blessing settle over her, the sacredness of this new beginning. In the stillness, her thoughts wandered, to Abraham's blessing, to the journey long behind her, and to the promise of all the journeys yet to come. The land around her seemed to breathe with the heartbeat of their story, ancient and alive. The elders gathered once more, weaving their blessings into the renewal of vows unspoken, but deeply felt. Rebekah and Isaac stood together under the wide sky, their hands clasped gently, the pulse of the earth resonating beneath their feet. As the sun dipped low, casting long shadows across the plain, the promise of many seasons hung between them, a tapestry of hope stretching wide and bright. Their story, just beginning, moved forward in quiet strength, a melody strummed softly by faith and love. Through whispered prayers and tender glances, they embraced the days ahead, weaving patience into their lives, building a home where laughter would echo and the warmth of companionship never fade. In the gentle embrace of twilight, Rebekah found peace, a heart anchored in love, a soul lifted by the steady presence of Isaac. Their journey, once a path unknown, now blossomed into a shared horizon, rich with the promise of all tomorrows. In the gentle unfolding of morning, Isaac and Rebekah moved through their day with a quiet rhythm, each moment an unspoken promise. The sun rose slowly beyond the distant hills, casting soft streams of light through the fig branches above their modest dwelling. A pale breeze whispered across the land, carrying with it the faint scent of wildflowers and freshly turned earth. Rebekah rose early, her hands skilled and steady, as she arranged fresh bread and ripe figs upon a woven tray. The simplicity of the meal mirrored the simplicity of the life they were building, rooted in care and intention. Isaac joined her, his presence steady and calm, watching the light gather in her eyes, as if they both understood the fragile beauty of these beginning days. They lingered at the threshold of their home, savoring the cool morning air. Isaac took Rebekah's hand, fingers entwining with a tenderness born of mutual respect, rather than haste. Her gaze met his, and in that silent exchange was a wellspring of gratitude. Gratitude for the unspoken gifts they shared, for the shelter they provided, for the unfolding of a future unknown, but full of quiet hope. The fields awaited, a patchwork of tilled earth and promise. Isaac led the way, calling out softly to the oxen, whose hooves stirred small clouds of dust that settled around their feet. Together they moved with the measured pace of farmers, sowing seeds with care and watching with hopeful eyes as the furrows accepted the new life they carried. Rebekah's hands brushed against the soil, rich and warm beneath the sun's growing strength. A sense of connection rooted her there, not only to the earth, but to the larger story of her people. She thought of Sarah and Abraham, their faith woven into every stone and stream. In these moments she felt a thread uniting generations, a bond of endurance and quiet strength. No words were needed between Isaac and Rebekah as they worked side by side. Sometimes a glance, sometimes a smile, Their companionship was a dance as old as time, measured not in grand declarations, but in the soft, steady movements that wove their lives closer. When midday warmth pressed upon the land, they sought refuge beneath the shade of the sycamore, the tree under which their journey had begun. Rebekah settled on a woven mat, her hair loose and framed by the dappled light. Isaac sat beside her, pulling from his bag a small jar of honey and the last of the bread. They ate slowly, savoring the simple meal. Rebekah spoke then, her voice low and clear, telling stories of the women she had known, of their strength and their tender courage. Isaac listened, his gaze on the horizon where the sky met the hills, contemplating the future they were crafting together. As the afternoon waned, they walked to the spring once more, the place that had become a symbol of blessing and beginning. The water whispered over stones, smooth from the passage of many years, cool and clear. Isaac cupped the water, offering it to Rebekah. She drank, feeling the chill reach deep within her, a baptism of hope renewed. They sat there still, letting the sounds of the land fill the spaces between them, the low murmur of flowing water, the rustle of leaves, the distant calls of birds returning to nest. Nightfall was slow, the stars spilling across the sky like scattered seeds of light. The village had quieted, and a gentle peace settled over their home. Isaac lit a small fire, its glow a soft heartbeat in the darkness. They sat close, the warmth of the flame mingling with the quiet warmth growing between them. Rebekah reached out, her fingers brushing a stray curl from Isaac's forehead. In the hush of the evening, her touch was an offering, a silent promise of steadfastness and care. Isaac's eyes met hers, steady and deep, as if anchoring all the unspoken hopes into the present. Under the vast canopy of stars, it was as if the universe itself held its breath, witnessing their union, simple yet profound. The world beyond could wait. Here in this moment, life was distilled to the essence of presence and promise. Sleep came slowly, wrapped in the soft folds of contentment. The sounds of night, a distant owl, the whisper of the breeze, wove a lullaby that cradled their dreams. Tomorrow the work would continue, as would the weaving of their life together. In those dreams, Rebekah saw the faces of her ancestors, their smiles like balm against the uncertainties ahead. Isaac dreamt of fields lush with grain and children's laughter drifting across the valley. Together they dreamed a shared life, a quiet dance between earth and sky, between hope and faith. Morning came again, gentle as a blessing. Rebekah awoke with a start of gratitude for this steady rhythm, the turning of days, the unfolding of love. Isaac was already awake, watching her with a smile that held all the reassurance she might need. They moved through their morning as if they were the pages of the same book, each action a phrase, each glance a sentence, without haste, without need for more than the moment itself. The village stir began, soft footsteps and distant voices blending with the dawn chorus. Neighbors greeted them warmly, sharing news and laughter as if no great change had come, yet all knew that something precious had been planted here, something that would grow in its own time. As the sun climbed, spilling golden light over the hills and fields, Isaac and Rebekah stood hand in hand at the edge of their land. Their eyes were fixed on the horizon, where sky and earth met in a quiet embrace. In the shelter of each other's presence, there was courage to face the unknown, to nurture what had been begun. There was faith, too, quiet and imperceptible, threading through their days and nights like an unseen current. They knew the road ahead would not always be easy, but in this place, with each other, they had found a beginning that would endure. The gift of shared hope, spoken in the language of everyday life and quiet love. And so, beneath the endless sky, they stepped forward together into the days that awaited, carrying with them the blessing of the earth, the promise of the stars, and the steadfastness of hearts intertwined. The soft light of dawn stretched across the land, casting a gentle glow over fields and hills alike. Isaac and Rebekah rose together, their bodies still holding the warmth of the night before. A quiet calm settled over them as they prepared for the day ahead, each movement slow, deliberate, as if honoring the preciousness of their shared beginning. Outside the world stirred, birds opening their songs to the waking air. The breeze carried a hint of rain far off in the distance, delicate and promising. They gathered simple provisions, fresh dates, soft figs, still fragrant from the earth, and tucked them carefully into a woven basket. Everything was infused with a sort of reverence, a recognition that this day, like many to come, was a gift to be received with open hearts. Together they walked toward the fields where Isaac's flocks awaited. The sheep were scattered gently among the grasses, their quiet bleats murmuring across the cool morning. Isaac's touch was tender and sure, guiding the animals while Rebekah moved beside him, her presence steadying and calm. They worked side by side, hands brushing, eyes meeting in brief but profound connections that needed no words. The rhythm of the day found them in harmony as the sun climbed higher, golden and warm. They took small breaks, stealing moments beneath the shade of olive trees, where the light filtered through leaves in dappled patterns. Rebekah cupped water in her hands, offering it to Isaac's lips, a silent exchange of care and trust. Each sip was an anchor, a reminder of life's sustaining grace. Conversations unfolded with ease, stories sharing new threads from their unfolding tapestry together. Isaac spoke of his father's teachings, the lessons wrapped in patience and humility. Rebekah listened, her eyes bright, then offered tales from her own childhood, the laughter and lessons of kin, the essence of family woven to every memory. The past blended with the present, creating a shared foundation rooted in respect and hope. When the midday sun grew strong, they sought shelter. Beneath a broad fig tree, its branches heavy with dark ripe fruit, they laid a simple cloth. Together they shared their modest meal, soft bread, creamy cheese, olives still kissed by salt. The taste was humble but rich with meaning. They ate slowly, savoring not just food but the sacredness of presence, the communion of two souls meeting in time. The quiet returned once more. Rebekah's hand found Isaac's, their fingers lacing naturally. Their eyes wandered to the horizon, tracing the edges of distant hills meeting endless sky. There, the world seemed wide and full of possibility, a canvas yet untouched, inviting them to paint their days with kindness and courage. As afternoon deepened, clouds gathered, soft and gentle like a whispered promise. A sprinkle of rain began, light at first, then steady, a tender shower that freed the earth's scent, sweet and fresh. Isaac and Rebekah welcomed the rain, standing hand in hand beneath the sky, feeling it beat along their skin. It was as if the heavens blessed their union anew, washing away all doubt, watering their hopes with quiet assurance. The coolness called them indoors, or rather, within themselves. They retreated to the shade of their modest dwelling, a place humble but filled with intention. Soft fabrics lined the walls, simple furnishings grounded in strength and comfort. Here, in this sanctuary of home, the world outside seemed distant, hushed, while inside warmth and peace were abundant. Evening came folded in a gentle quiet, the sky shifting through hues of amber, rose, and deepening blue. Together, they lit a small oil lamp, its flame steady and soft, casting dancing shadows. They sat close, fingers weaving, breathing in the stillness. Without urgency, they spoke of dreams, not grand or distant, but the everyday hopes carried in the heart. Days brimming with laughter and care, shared burdens and simple joys. Rebekah spoke of gardens blooming through seasons, of weaving cloth with dyes as rich as the earth's own colors. Isaac imagined fields ripe with grain, a home filled with the sounds of children's voices and the gentle bustle of many hands working in unison. Their visions, though humble, were vast in spirit, a shared longing for life deeply lived, quietly blessed. In the soft glow they embraced silence again, the language of presence more powerful than words. The fire's crackle spoke of endurance, of light maintained against darkness. Their hearts beat with steady rhythm, attuned to one another and to all that was unfolding beyond and within. Night's arrival was a slow unveiling, stars unblinking sentinels illuminating their world. Isaac stepped outside, breathing the cool air, feeling the vastness of the universe cradle their small but precious life. Rebekah joined him soon, their outlines merging beneath the canopy of endless sky. Together they lifted prayers, not demands or cries, but whispers of gratitude for the day past and the days to come. The universe held them in its vast embrace, and in that sacred moment, their promise was sealed once more, a promise of steadfastness, of faith brushed with the gentle hand of hope. There was no rush, no need for certainty beyond the knowing they had found in one another. As sleep drew near, their bodies settled close, a quiet sanctuary against the night's cool breath. Dreams came softly, weaving images of ancestors' strength and future blossoms yet to unfold. They dreamed of long days filled with peace, of challenges met with grace, and of a love deepened not by grand declarations but by constant presence. The dawn would bring another day, another chance to walk side by side, to nurture this fragile and fierce gift of life together. But for now, the night held them gently, a respite, a blessing, a silence rich with promise. In the heart of stillness, Isaac and Rebekah rested, bound by the quiet power of a love meant to endure beyond the changing winds. Their story was not just of two souls, but of the earth itself. The stars above, and the timeless flow of hope carried on every breath. Morning comes quietly, filtered through soft curtains of linen. Isaac awakens first, the peaceful rhythm of Rebekah's breath next to him, a comforting melody. He lies still a moment longer, sensing the weight and lightness of a new day beckoning. The air holds a fresh promise, like the earth after rain, inviting patience and gentle care. Rebekah stirs beside him, eyes opening slowly, reflecting the pale gold of dawn. Their hands find each other beneath the linen covers, fingers intertwining as if to seal a silent greeting. They share a smile, wordless and tender, understanding that here, in this small room, life quietly unfolds. Rising, Isaac steps toward the kitchen area, where morning light slips through a small window. He kindles the fire, the flame flickering softly, breathing warmth into the cool room. The scent of wood mingles with the faint earthiness lingering from last night's rain. It is a scent that speaks of home, of grounding. Rebekah moves to gather water from the clay jar, her touch gentle on its rough surface. She begins to prepare a simple breakfast: fresh bread, a few slices of ripe figs, and soft cheese pressed from the morning's milk. They share the meal slowly, savoring each bite, not from hunger, but from a quiet appreciation of sustenance. They sit side by side, the morning light caressing their faces. Conversation flows lightly, like a stream meandering through familiar lands. They speak of small things, the way the breeze felt last evening, the pattern of clouds drifting overhead, the hope that the dry season will soon soften. Isaac listens as Rebekah describes a new idea for the garden. She imagines fragrant herbs nestled among the vegetables, their dried leaves used for healing and scent. Her voice softens with delight, revealing her care for the land that sustains them. He nods, sharing how he hopes to carve new furrows in the field, preparing for seeds that promise life beneath the earth. They imagine together the quiet miracles that unfold in soil and root, their hopes mirrored in the cycle of seasons they live by. Time stretches, measured not by a clock, but by the sun's slow arc. They move outdoors, their steps light on the soft earth. The garden embraces them, rows of tender shoots, leaves gleaming with drops of recent rain. Rebekah kneels beside a bed of marigolds, running her fingers through the soil, feeling its coolness and richness. Isaac stands at the edge of the field, eyes scanning the horizon where earth meets sky. There is work ahead, yes, but also a deep well of patience. Together they cultivate life, tending to roots but also to one another. Later, Rebekah gathers wool, spinning threads that catch the light in gentle glints. Her hands move with practiced grace, weaving color and story into fabric that will wrap them in warmth. Isaac watches quietly, admiring the rhythm of her motions, the softness of the fibers. In the stillness, they share stories of ancestors, of journeys taken and dreams still held close. Words fall like quiet music between them, binding past and future in the sacred space of the present. As midday turns toward afternoon, a breeze stirs the olive trees, their silver-green leaves whispering in the sunlight. Isaac and Rebekah sit beneath their shade, mouths tasting the tang of olives still clinging to the branches. They reflect on the small miracles of daily life. A shared meal, a calm moment, the breath between heartbeats. The light softens, deepening in hue as the sun begins to descend. Evening arrives again, but with it comes a familiar peace. They return indoors, the oil lamp casting warm, flickering light across their faces. Their conversation is quieter now, thoughts folding inward. Isaac speaks of gratitude, for the land, for Rebekah, for the gift of each day's unfolding. She responds with a smile that carries all the unspoken beauty of trust and belonging. Together they light a small bundle of incense, the fragrant smoke curling upward as if carrying their prayers beyond these humble walls. They sit close, their bodies leaning into each other, drawing warmth from the shared stillness. When night deepens, the stars emerge once more, scattered jewels woven into the dark velvet sky. They stand outside for a while, breath visible in the cool air. Isaac points to the constellations, telling Rebekah the stories that have been passed down through generations. Tales of strength, hope, and the steady turn of time. They offer a soft prayer together, voices barely more than a whisper. It is not a prayer for certainty or grand plans, but for continued courage, for the grace to meet whatever dawn brings. Retreating indoors, they prepare for rest. The simple linens are cool beneath their touch, but in each other's arms, warmth gathers and grows. As sleep begins to claim them, their last thoughts are of gratitude, for presence, for love, and for the quiet unfolding of a life lived with intention. In this shared silence, Isaac and Rebekah's bond deepens still, woven not just from affection, but from a profound connection to the earth beneath their feet, the stars above, and the steady flow of hope that carries them forward, day by day, moment by moment. The story of Isaac and Rebekah is not one of grand triumphs or dramatic turns, but one of gentle perseverance. In their humble home, beneath vast skies, they hold fast to the tender threads of love and hope, weaving a life that shines quietly, steadily, enduring beyond measure. With the dawn's soft light filtering through the woven curtains, Isaac rose before the world had fully stirred. The air carried the faint scent of dew and earth, cool and promising. He stepped outside barefoot on the dew-kissed grass, feeling the pulse of the land beneath him. The garden awaited, each plant a silent companion through changing seasons. Rebekah was already tending the herbs, her fingers gently parting the leaves of mint and thyme, her breath a quiet rhythm among the greenery. She smiled, seeing Isaac approach, and together they began their day without hurry. The soil was loamy from the recent rains, dark and rich, offering its readiness without complaint. Isaac ran his hands lovingly through the earth, imagining the seeds he would soon nestle into it, seeds of wheat, barley, and lentils, their bodies small but filled with promise. To sow these was more than a task, it was a sacred gesture, an act of trust in the unseen cycles of growth. Rebekah gathered sprigs of lavender and rosemary, their aromas mingling in the gentle morning light. She worked steadily, spinning wool dyed with natural pigments harvested from their land, earth tones reflecting the colors of the horizon as it brightened. Her hands moved with ancient knowledge, threading history into every fiber. They sat beneath the broad fig tree, its leaves whispering softly overhead. Isaac shared a tale his father once told him, a story of a shepherd who found strength not in conquest, but in quiet endurance, tending his flock through drought and storm. Rebekah listened, weaving the story into her thoughts, each word a thread connecting them to ancestors who had walked these paths before. Together, they tasted olives fresh from the grove, their bitterness tempered by the sun's warmth. It was a flavor of patience, of time measured in seasons rather than hours. This sharing, simple and unadorned, was a treasure they returned to often. As the sun climbed, Rebekah folded fabric, the wool catching the light in soft ripples. Isaac repaired a worn tool, steady hands attuned to its familiarity. Their movements were a choreography of quiet purpose, each action thinning the distance between work and worship. When midday arrived, they found shade beneath the pomegranate tree, its branches heavy with future fruit. They ate bread baked from last season's grain, breaking the crust to reveal warmth within, nourishing and homely. Their conversation drifted to hopes whispered in the silence of the night, to children laughing alongside them, to songs sung beneath these very stars. In the afternoon, Isaac walked the borders of their cultivated fields, examining the new shoots standing sentinel in neat rows. He spoke softly to the plants, honoring their steadfast striving toward light. Rebekah joined him, her arms laden with freshly gathered herbs, the fragrances weaving a tapestry of life's intimate pleasures. They paused at a small pool where water gathered, reflecting sky and earth. Here the world seemed held in balance, past and future mirrored in its stillness. They knelt side by side, palms warm from the sun, and offered whispered prayers of gratitude for this fragile harmony. As shadows lengthened, they gathered kindling and prepared a fire. The crackling flames sent patterns of gold dancing upon their faces, and they shared memories spoken and unspoken. The air was cool, infused with the scent of burning herbs and the gentle whisper of night stirring to life. Isaac recounted a story of the evening star, a symbol of guidance and unyielding hope. Rebekah listened, her eyes reflecting the flames, her heart steady in the comfort of his voice. Here, in the hush of twilight, time seemed suspended, and love was measured not in grand gestures, but in shared presence. The house welcomed them with the warmth of woven cloth and the faint perfume of dried flowers. They settled close, the soft murmur of their breathing mingling in the quiet. Rebekah rested against Isaac's shoulder as he traced patterns across the back of her hand. Their hearts spoke in the silences between words, communicating a depth beyond expression. Night folded around them, a gentle shroud woven from the earth's own breath. In this small sanctuary, they dreamed together, not of wealth or renown, but of continuing this tender unfolding of life, of nurturing roots and reaching towards light. The world beyond their door ebbed and flowed, but here was a stillness that spoke of eternity. And as the stars sparked anew beyond the window pane, Isaac and Rebekah drifted into sleep. Cradled by the land they honored and the bond they cherished, they rested in a quiet peace that would sustain them through all days to come. Morning crept in slow and soft, its pale light slipping like a sigh through the thin curtains. Isaac rose first, fingers tracing the faint grain of the wood table where their simple meal had rested the night before. The house was quiet still, but the world beyond stirred gently, birds pressing their songs into the cool air, the first breaths of the day exhaled by the earth. Rebekah stirred beside him, limbs unfolding from sleep's embrace with the slow grace of unfolding petals. Their eyes met, a wordless greeting rooted deeper than any spoken voice. Together they moved through the soft light, their steps drawn out and deliberate, as if honoring the day ahead. Outside, the fields shimmered faintly under the new sun. Isaac's gaze swept the breadth of wheat, bent heavy and golden. The barley stalks rose steady and sure, while clusters of lentils nodded softly, their rounded leaves catching the morning dew. He cupped a handful of earth, a soil cool and fragmented, rich with the past season's whispers. It smelled of promise and patience. Rebekah appeared with a basket in hand, filled with wild thyme and mint, the herbs still damp with dew. She placed them carefully on the stone basin beside the door, her fingers lingering on each fragrant stem before setting them down. She loved these small gifts from the land, familiar friends that tethered their days to the natural rhythm, reminders that even within labor and toil, there was gentle grace. They gathered there for a moment side by side, breathing in the garden's fresh perfume. Isaac spoke softly, his voice a low murmur carried on the breeze, telling Rebekah again of his father's quiet resilience, that steady heart beating through years of waiting. Rebekah's eyes gleamed, reflecting the vast patience of the earth itself, and her hands began weaving lavender sprigs into a small bundle tied with a strip of worn cloth. Their work intertwined seamlessly, the wood sturdy beneath their knees as Isaac carefully sharpened another blade, the soft wool spinning in Rebekah's fingers, taking shape once more into vibrant threads. The rhythms of their labor wove the day into a tapestry of purpose, each action deliberate, each touch a silent song. Later, in the warm light of mid-morning, Isaac moved amongst the crops, bending attentively to weed and water. Rebekah followed, tending herbs and gathering wildflowers with a gentle hand. Their voices rarely rose above the quiet chorus of the breeze, the hum of bees busy at their work, the soft rustle of leaves. At midday, shade beneath the great fig tree gave respite. Isaac broke fresh bread, its crust crackling softly as Rebekah sliced ripe figs to lay beside the slices. The taste was sweet and sun-warmed, an echo of the land's generosity. They ate slowly, savoring the calm, each bite a reminder of the cycles that sustained and transformed. Isaac's eyes rested on Rebekah, tracing the simple lines of her face, the gentle curve of her smile. He spoke then of the stars, those silent watchers of their ancestors' nights. He told her stories carried by the wind, of constellations that mapped journeys, of hopes cast like seeds into the fertile dark. The afternoon wore on beneath a comforting blue sky. Rebekah set their garden in order, nurturing the young shoots of spinach and chickpeas. Isaac repaired a worn plow, his practiced hands moving with steady certainty. Around them, the earth hummed softly, alive with quiet speech. As shadows grew longer, they returned to the pool where their reflections shimmered, broken only by the gentle ripple of water's edge. Together they offered thanksgiving for life's endurance, for the unseen strength within, for the fragile balance held between night and day, past and future. The gentle hush of evening settled as they kindled another flame beneath the familiar pomegranate tree. The firelight danced, casting warm amber patterns upon their faces. Stories emerged once more, passed between them like sacred threads, each tale a bridge to a heritage sacred and true. They spoke of the evening star again, a beacon of hope, steady amidst change. It shone in their shared dreams and whispered promises, a symbol that even in darkness, light could be found, held steady. The house grew quiet around them, the only sounds the occasional crackling of flames and their soft breaths. Isaac and Rebekah moved closer, hands finding the comfort of the other, their bond a sanctuary beyond words. In those small, silent spaces, love deepened, not in grand declarations, but in the steady presence of two souls intertwined. Night wrapped them gently, its cool cloak a quiet invitation to rest. Their hearts beat in unison, steady and slow, carried by the land's eternal rhythm. Dreams blossomed softly between them, dreams of children's laughter, of growing fields, of future days steeped in peace and harvest. There in the gentle dark, Isaac and Rebekah laid their hopes to sleep alongside themselves. The world beyond their walls continued its timeless turning, but inside, all was still and whole. They rested secure in the knowledge that life, tender and resilient, would unfold in its own time, rooted by love, nurtured by patience, and held within the endless beauty of the earth's quiet embrace. When dawn breathed softly through the curtains, Isaac and Rebekah woke gently, the cool morning air weaving quiet hopes around them. The day awaited with gentle promise, and they rose slowly, savoring the harmony of beginnings. In the courtyard beyond their modest home, dew clung like pearls to tender shoots. Rebekah knelt among the young plants, her fingers tenderly coaxing soil around delicate roots. Isaac gathered water from a stone basin, the cool liquid shimmering in early light. Together they moved without hurry, each act an offering to the land that held them. Rebekah noticed a small cluster of wild thyme near the garden's edge. She plucked sprigs with care and wove them into a simple braid. The fragrance rose, sweet and comforting, a quiet blessing for the hours ahead. Isaac watched, the corners of his mouth softening. In these small rituals, the day unfolded in sacred rhythm. Later, as the sun climbed higher, their tasks grew busier, yet the sense of peacefulness endured. Isaac repaired a worn plowshare, his hand steady, the weight of the metal familiar and grounding. Rebekah tended to the herbs, harvesting lavender and marjoram to dry for future uses, their scents filling the air like whispered memories. At midday they paused once more beneath a fig tree, its broad leaves casting cooling shade. Bread scented with a hint of honey, and ripe figs rested upon a woven cloth between them. They ate slowly, voices low, sharing stories from their youth, tales of laughter, and quiet moments that had shaped their hearts before these days together. Isaac spoke softly of his father's voice, a sound like deep earth, strong and steady in the face of trials. Rebekah listened, her eyes bright with understanding. The lessons carried through generations, threaded through the fabric of their lives like golden strands. The afternoon sun lingered warmly as Rebekah watered the tender shoots at the garden's edge. Isaac carried a basket of tools toward the barn, feeling the rhythm of work like a steady pulse. Time moved alongside them, patient, accommodating, a friend rather than a master. In the stillness between tasks, they exchanged meaningful glances, each glance a silent conversation of shared respect and affection. Words were often unnecessary, their connection breathed in spaces between sounds. As the light began to soften into the gentle hues of evening, they walked to the pool, its surface a mirror for the glowing sky. Isaac gathered smooth stones and laid them carefully at the water's edge, creating a small alcove. Rebekah dipped her hands into the cool water, the droplets catching the dimming light. Together they offered quiet thanks, not with grand gestures, but with heartfelt murmurs and gentle smiles. Gratitude touched them deeply, reminding them of the delicate balance between struggle and ease, growth and rest. Night wrapped the land in its velvet cloak, and beneath the pomegranate tree, warmth blossomed from the fire Isaac kindled. Sparks floated upward, chasing the night's shadows into retreat. Rebekah's voice wove through the air, connecting ancient stories with present moments, stories of stars, journeys, and the enduring embrace of home. Isaac added his own memories, tales of patience and resilience passed from father to son. In their weaving of words, past and present intertwined like vines climbing toward the light. The evening star appeared, glowing steady and bright, a beacon in the vast sky. They watched in silence, finding comfort in its unwavering presence, a reminder that even in darkness, light lives, waiting to guide the way. Their hands found each other, fingers entwined gently beneath the deepening night. Words softened to quiet hums, breaths mingling like soft winds among the trees. In the stillness, love settled, not as a roaring flame, but as a steady ember, warm and enduring. When sleep finally called, it came gently. Dreams unfolded that promised fields lush and green, children's laughter carried on the breeze, and the gentle unfolding of life's tender mysteries. They rested, cocooned within the timeless heartbeat of the earth, carried by patience and the steady pulse of hope. Morning's light would come again, as it always did, and with it new moments to cherish, new rhythms to embrace. Isaac and Rebekah, rooted in love and trust, faced the unfolding day together, two souls intertwined with the land and with each other's steady presence. In that quiet harmony, the promise of life blossomed gently, sure as dawn. Morning light brushed the earth with soft gold as Isaac stretched beneath the open sky. The air was cool, scented faintly with dew and the distant perfume of wild thyme still woven into Rebekah's braid. Quiet moments slipped by before she emerged from the dwelling, her eyes calm, her steps light across the garden's awakening. In silence, they worked side by side, a synchronized dance attuned by years of shared days. Isaac sharpened the blade of a sickle while Rebekah bent to gather tender shoots of basil and oregano. The garden's colors deepened, emerald leaves, frosted with morning's touch. Each breath they took was a whispered prayer, a call toward the rhythms of earth and sky. By mid-morning, they rested beneath an olive tree, its gnarled limbs weaving shadows like lace upon the ground. Rebekah unwrapped a cloth bundle, revealing soft goat's cheese and crusty bread, fragrant with rosemary. Isaac poured cool water from a clay jug, the sound trickling like a gentle stream. They ate slowly, savoring the flavors, the silence between them rich with understanding. Isaac spoke then, his voice low, steady. He told Rebekah of the valley beyond the hills, where his father had planted olive trees when the land was young, long before their time. The trees stood still, witnesses to seasons and storms, silent guardians of family stories. Rebekah listened, her eyes tracing the distant horizon, as if catching glimpses of those old roots beneath the soil. When the sun gained strength, they returned to their tasks. Rebekah tended to seedlings, her hands moving tenderly, coaxing life from earth's warm embrace. Isaac carried stones from the brook to fortify the terrace walls, his muscles remembering the rhythm of labor. Their bodies spoke of patience, a sacred steadiness in the world's turning. As afternoon edged toward dusk, the garden bloomed under a gentle breeze that carried hints of lavender and thyme. The day's work folded into quiet satisfaction. Isaac found an old reed basket, mending its woven edges with careful fingers, while Rebekah collected wildflowers, daisies and bluebells, to brighten the wooden table. They prepared their evening meal beneath a sky brushed with soft pink clouds. Slowly roasted figs, drizzled with honey, mingled with fragrant barley stew, simmered with herbs from the garden. Flavors shimmered like memories, simple yet profound. The fire's glow warmed their faces as they ate, shadows dancing softly on the earth. When night deepened, Isaac laid beside Rebekah on a blanket under the pomegranate tree. Stars gleamed like scattered seeds overhead, steady and familiar. They spoke little, their breaths mingling in the cool darkness, hearts unfolding in stillness. Their hands found one another again, fingers weaving a quiet testament of unity. The tales Rebekah shared stirred the night air, ancient voices telling of rivers and mountains, of women who shaped the land, and men who walked paths of courage. Isaac listened with a gentle smile, the stories weaving through them like threads of light, binding their past to the present. Sleep came as a soft tide, carrying them into dreams where fields stretched wide beneath endless skies, where laughter echoed through olive groves, where life's tender mysteries unfolded silently in the dawn. Together, they rested, held by the earth warmed by love's abiding flame. When the soft stir of early morning whispered again, Isaac and Rebekah rose, their spirits light with promise. The sun began its slow climb, painting the world anew. With hands entwined, they stepped forward into the day, rooted in the sacred harmony they had nurtured, ready to face the unfolding moments with steadfast hearts and quiet grace.